Music, as we all know, produces emotions in us. It gets you excited, it calms you down, it makes you jump around in your house when you listen to it. I mean, it makes you look absurd sometimes if nobody's looking at you. So it creates emotions in you. Lighting is the same thing. You realize that music deals in called linear contrast. It deals within time. Well, music has highs and lows and rates of change, all from a key. All from up and up, above the key and below the key, and then rates of change between that. We call that beat, we call it rhythm, we call it several different things. Photography is the same way. Then an object we have brightness and darknesses, and then we have transitions between the two. Just like you have the specular and the shadow, and you have transition between those to the key, which is the brightness of the object. A photographer that really knows what they're doing to create an emotion will choose and produce what we'll call pretty light, beautiful light. Well, what is beautiful light? Kind of a nebulous statement, isn't it? What is beautiful? Beautiful is a very subjective thing, you know, and so for a photographer to tap into people and say, I'm going to create something that they believe is beautiful, that will want to look at my images, they'll work with highlights, shadows, transfer edges between. In other words, is there going to be a hard light from a small spot or a big, very soft edge transfer from a huge light box in real close? So you have highs and lows, speculars to shadows, and the transfers between exactly as music.
Photographer Dean Collins publishes Fine Light for those who take their lighting seriously. Each issue's detailed lighting setup teaches important technique.
Fine Light is trying to be a responsible publication, and in education there's two types. There's either forming or informing. A lot of schools, a lot of colleges you go to, somewhat form you into the role of what should be, what they think a successful business person will be or whatever, and they try to say, these are the things you need to know, these are right, these are wrong. In photography, you can't do that. You can do it technically. You can say that F8 is F8, and gray card is a gray card, and you control shine and skin by bringing light source in closer and making it bigger. That is facts. That can be formed into you. But to inform someone is to identify that all these crafts are available. It is a craft. It is an organized concept. And if you understand it, then you can be as free as you want. So you don't have to be formed anymore. You don't have to do what everybody's always done. You can produce a concept that eventually someone will look at it as your style and say, God, that is so different than anything I've seen. Well, it's still done in the photographic process, but it's different than it's ever been done.
Whether the light comes from the immense banks of soft light suspended over the studio, or from less grandiose lighting instruments, the Fine Light method of lighting uses light to create finely tuned and textured photographs.
Okay. Front of the board being about right here. Back of the board being about right here. Okay. Yeah.
You want that closer to the front end here?
Yeah, go ahead and scoot it on up then. Go right there. And then just get the, right here and right here. Get it right there. Bring the bike up. Right here, front wheel right here. Qualities of light are segments of it. How much shine is in the skin? How much shadow density do we have? How sharp is the highlight to the shadow transfer? How bright is the shine in the skin? Those are qualities of light that a photographer creates and then records. That's changed quite a bit in the last 25 years because color photography has been introduced to where the latitude of the film is not anywhere near what it used to be. Ansel Adams walked out one day and he wanted to take a picture of Half Dome with a sunny day on it and the dark trees, and he said, great, I love the contrast range, I can see it, but my film cannot see that full latitude. Because of his musical background, he understood a concept of key shifting, meaning that if the contrast of the upper level is too high, then it's only too high relative to your beginning point. So what he did is he shifted his beginning point, which was he key shifted, or he took his middle of his film and shifted it up and exposed in certain areas, and then what's called developed back. So he shifted it and brought it up back. That's a black and white process. That is a process which could be done through development by inspection, going into a dark room and looking at it and realizing that, okay, here's this exposure. I can get all the tones by moving it around. Color photography isn't that way. As a commercial shooter, I shoot primarily on transparent film. Transparent film, meaning that I'm shooting the actual original at the time of exposure. There's no manipulation after that. I take it into the lab and I say process it. They process it at a straight line, And if I've done my job, I've made, you might say, I've made the top of Half Dome and I made the shadows all within the proper brightness to all land on the piece of film with the proper latitude. So I, in my studio, create the contrast where Ansel recorded his contrast. He walked out there and said, okay, this is what I have and this is my film, this is the way I'll do it. I'm walking in and saying, here's my film, I can't move it, so let's take the light qualities and fit it to that. So it's, one is called, his system was called a reflective zone system. It dealt with reflective energy. He took a reflector meter, spot metered, and metered out there and said, okay, here's the values, here's the brightnesses. As a photographer, lighting a product, lighting something shiny, lighting a motorcycle helmet, lighting a car, I'm going to look at the situation. I'm going to produce light quality to where all the shine, all the shadow falls within the latitude of my film. So mine's called an incident zone system. Incident means to strike. So I make sure that the light is striking at the proper qualities to land on the piece of film. So when I develop it out, they look at it and they say, oh, there's detail here, there's detail here. You didn't lose detail in the shine. I still see the color in the shiny area, but we know it's a shiny car, shiny motorcycle helmet. And then, okay, I see detail in the shadow area, fine. I'm not going to get that by exposing or developing back as say, a fine art black and white photographer is. I'm going to have to create that light quality.
Long hours and hard work go into each fine light shoot, so that fine light readers can follow the setup and learn the techniques. More with Dean Collins when World of Photography continues.